Well, welcome to today's CineLink Talks panel. It's hosted by the Sarajevo Film Festival and Documentary Campus and Screen International. My name is Paula Vaccaro. I am moderating this talk, and I have designed and curated the talk that we're seeing today and a few of the other talks of CineLinks. CineLink Talks is a program of 11 webinars for the festival's 2020 industry strand, and it's been running since August 15th until August 20th, and it was moved online because of COVID. And today's talk will last an hour, and we will leave around 20 minutes for questions from the audience. So please make this talk also yours by leaving your questions on the Q&A box, and I will try to go through as many as possible of those talks. Today's talk is about platforms and TV working together, not as a statement, but as a question. I am interested in exploring with the invited people in this panel, what will the future of film and TV creation would look like in the future? And right now, the riddle that we have, that is a riddle that only a few probably dare to solve. And whatever the future holds, we can't avoid looking at the dance created among producers and television commissioners and platforms and financiers. So I'm interested in discussing with our panelists what's at stake really for OTTs and for TVs, and what can each do to ensure a sustainable future for creators. And if there is a way that we can reimagine this landscape through discussing what has worked and what seems a challenge, I think that we will be in a better position. Today with me is Alex Garcia, who is a producer. He's one of the most prolific producers and investors coming from Latin America. He has produced over 100 projects throughout Latin America and throughout Europe, America as well. He has a company, AG Studios, that has bases in Mexico, Chile, Argentina, Colombia, Brazil, US, and Spain, and Latin Pictures, a distribution and international sales arm, and AG Content, an IP holding company under the AG umbrella. Alex is able to cover development, production, post-production, distribution. He has been an integral shareholder at Anima Studios and Lemon Films and Bazooka Films. Also at OTTs like on platforms like Mubi and Rappi and Mowies and Humanoids. So many things, films from Tropa de Elite to Burning Plane, Jonas Cuarón's Desierto, Refugio. It's a really, really long biography, and I'm very proud and happy to have Alex here today. Next, we also have Carolina Bilbao, who is the VP of Programming and Development at Cine Latino, a Latin American movie channel available in 15 million homes across the Americas, and she is responsible for the channel's programming, acquisitions, and development of originals. And in the recent years, she has executive produced numerous projects for Cine Latino as well, and the sister SVOD platform Pantaya. And we have also today Ivar Køhn. I knew at some point I was gonna just pause for the names. Ivar is a producer who's also been the head of drama at the Norwegian Broadcasting Corporation NRK since 2013. And previously, she was the head of development and production department at the Norwegian Film Institute and responsible for all the public support to Norwegian films for drama, co-productions, and TV drama. And he was a film commissioner at the Norwegian Film Fund and the head of development at Swedish television drama and chairman of the board at the Nordic Film and TV Fund. And he has also been a writer-creator for 3 TV drama productions and behind many successful series and films, including the NRK global phenomenon Scam, a teenage series that became not only a huge success internationally, but also created an audience shift for NRK managing to bring younger audiences back to TV. Welcome, Ivar, as well, and Carolina. And Joyce Pierpoline is an independent film producer and founder of Pierpoline Films, and she's known for creating character-driven narratives that tackle issues of gender and sexuality. Her most recent film, The Transfiguration, premiered at Saint Hagar in the Cannes Film Festival, and she's done also award-winning films such as The Sundance One Teeth and Happy Tears, Angelica, In the Company of Men. She is a co-chair of the Film and Television Committee at BAFTA New York, and she has recently joined the board of NY Women in Film and Television, New York Women in Film and Television. She's a member of the European Producers Club and the European Film Academy and the Producers Guilds of America. And last but not least, We have Diego Piezek, who is a passionate entrepreneur inside the corporate world, an experienced media executive with domestic and international film and TV experience. Diego joined MGM in 2019 as a senior vice president for international TV development to help kickstart their international co-productions and local language productions business. Before MGM, he helped build divisions at Viacom and Ben Silverman's Electus. And prior to that, he was doing development, production, and international sales role at Fox and Shine upon moving to the US from Argentina in 2010. All right, so let's kickstart this with the actual conversation with the name of our panel, and that would be, can TVs and OTTs work together? And I want to put that conversation forward to Ivar, because I think you are a powerful TV man, and your work could probably shift a few things.
Yes, well, of course, we can work together, but in Norway, we have discovered that it's quite hard to work together when we all want the same kind of rights. And the rights we want in Norway is to have the exclusivity for the Norwegian market. So when we try to work with OTTs, they are in some way they are interested to go and work and have the international rights, but they are mostly interested to have the Norwegian and the Nordic rights. And if we do that, we in some way what we call pee in our trousers. We get it's going to be quite hot for a while, and then it's going to be very, very cold. And in the Nordic countries, it's not good to pee in the trousers, at least in the winter time. So we actually because the number one channel for us when you talk about OTT and TV, it's not a difference. The number one platform for us is the streaming platform. We do everything we do is for the streaming platform. That's where also our audience is moving. If you are below 40 years, you use most of your time on the streaming. So the tipping point in Norway is around 40-50, and the change is so rapidly going to the streaming. So if we want to have our audience, and if we want to be relevant for our audience, we have to go for the streaming. And it's hard for us it's not our biggest competitor are actually the streaming, at least as Netflix. So it's hard for us to cooperate with them. So, well, we can do it, but we think it's difficult because they actually just want to get into our market and to take our good dramas and make them as their own on our market, and that's not a good thing. So at the time, until we find a way to cooperate better, we say no to work with international OTTs.
Thank you, Ivar. I want to bring in Joyce, because I wonder what, from a producer's perspective, what kind of conundrum this brings to you.
Well, I think you have to look at the kind of project it is and see what best fits for the project. Because there's some projects that I think you can do on an OTT and you have a certain kind of a flexibility that you do not have on other outlets like traditional television or traditional theatrical release. So I think, but I think what is interesting is the way the two can work together. And, when you see certain things like a series like Berlin Babylon, which did kind of a hybrid, it did both traditional, cable channels throughout Europe And then in North America, it was Netflix. So, you know, the producers were able to kind of benefit and hold on to their rights, but then also have Netflix in North America, which is also allowed them to have a film that is, you know, foreign language in the US, which is not always the easiest thing to do.
Thank you. Alex Garcia, is there such a thing to a project for OTTs and a project for television? Do you see this flexibility that Joyce is talking about, or how do you see this combination? You work across both as well as a producer.
Yes, hi. Is there a project for TV? Yes, mostly I agree with what was said before, which is every single person is looking at OTT as the final market, because at the end it's the one that gives the most eyes. It's the one that has the money. It's the one that gives the most eyes. So in my opinion, yes, we all look at OTT as the final frontier. What would I say that applies to TV? Always remember, everybody, that I come from a Latin background, and I work in Latin America. So what works for TV is news, and is sports a bit, and is soap operas. That's it. And according to me, TV will exist until they bother OTT a bit. When they just bother OTT, OTT just gets rid of them at the end. That's the way I see it. If there's a possibility of them working together, in my mind, in Latin America, TV networks and TV anything will become production arms for OTTs. And they'll exist as long as the OTTs want. The day the OTTs don't want them around, they're gone. Every single one of them. I think that the only country that has a little bit of possibility of surviving would be Brazil, because of what Globo did. And they reacted kind of late, but they reacted well. Apart from that, platforms is the next step. And by platforms, I mean the 5 or 6 big ones. The small ones will exist until the big ones want.
Alex, sorry, for those who don't know about it, what is it that Globo did in Brazil?
They basically banned any actor or director that works for Netflix. They basically said that any actor or director that works with Netflix will not be able to work with Globo again. So that's the only, but that's it.
Aggressive.
And that's the only way Globo is going to survive. By now, Televisa could be bought by Netflix with their pocket money. Caracol and RCN could be bought with their pocket money, not even a year spent in content. So the truth is, TV is gone. It's the same thing that happened to radio versus Spotify. Radio exists, and their only advertising money comes from the restaurant next door, not from Pepsi. So it's exactly the same thing that's going to happen to TV. TV lives from what? TV lives from advertising, and cable TV lives from subscription. As long as the platforms are just considering that the TV networks are receiving the crumbs, they'll let them exist. If they ever bother them too much, they're gone.
Well, in Europe, we also, I understand. And I love it, because I love that it's a big provocation that not many will dare say. In Europe, we also have TVs that are supported, like in the UK, for example, we have the BBC that is supported by people paying something that is called the TV license. And in most European countries, there is a national TV that is supported by national funds in that. But I really like the full provocation, like opening the blow. I can't wait to go back to Ivar and see what he thinks of this. I wanted to go to Carolina though, because I see you, Carolina, going, like really nodding at some of the things that Alex was saying. So I would love to hear your take, because you have also worked across platform as an OTT and also a TV channel in a similar landscape, but in the US in your case as well,
Yeah.
with Latino.
Yeah, my experience is that the industry is changing super fast, and it's because of habit. There's so many screens and so many options of what you can watch, that on our end, in cable and free TV and OTTs, we're scrambling to make projects that work for all of us. So the advantage of my channel is that we're US based, we're for US Hispanics, and that opens the possibility of being able to collaborate with OTTs or people in the region. And to Joyce's point, it all starts with the project, with the creative that can fit either my cable channel and a Turner or Amazon in Latam, and start creatively with something that will work for both brands. And then it's really all about negotiating who keeps the IP, who puts the most money, who gets the windows. It's really all about windowing. If you pay the most money, who puts the most budget is the person really who's going to get the first window, and then you get the second window. So it's a very, very intricate packaging of a project that has to do with sharing the AP, the rights, the time frame of those rights, and that's kind of how it works in my little section of the industry. But yeah, I mean, everybody's migrating to every, viewer appointment viewing has basically disappeared, as Alex mentioned. But those channels are still live, and they still need to program things. They still need to, to move the needle, and content is king. Whomever has an appealing show is going to get those eyeballs. So it's competitive, but I think we're all kind of talking about the same thing, but it's interesting.
No, but it's good, and this gives me a good excuse to ask Diego, because Diego not only is working from a very big studio and focusing a bit into Latin America, but also can I say, is it the head of your department or the head of your division is someone like Rola Bauer now, correct, Diego, who is an extremely experienced exec in Europe and internationally. So Diego, what is your vision as you can see both Latin America, Europe, and the US, where you work?
I think I'll piggyback on what everyone said and come up with my own conclusion. But I think it's a little bit of, starting without getting distracted by the business, and really understanding what the creative of the project is and where it fits best. There's projects that just creatively will lead, towards something that is not advertising paid, because there's certain restrictions on the content side that you would have to be careful with. And then from there on, I do think that there's another kind of subcategory, which is what language it's going to be the show in. Because if it's going to be a local, Spanish language, it will be limited to maybe like Latin America, US, Hispanic, and Spain for the most part. If you have a Norwegian show in Norwegian, then that's, you can have like a breakthrough show like Dark on the right platform like Netflix, but it's going to be really hard to like cross the border with so much content. And then like if the budget is too big, because sometimes, you guys will want to produce in Europe or somewhere else a show for $2.5 million, and the local budgets won't sustain it. So it's a matter of bringing all these different buyers together, and maybe you do a first window with a France 2 in France, and then you bring in a Salto or an Amazon for the second window. And sometimes they can coexist, but it's got to be the right content and the right budget. So from us, like from our perspective, anything that is English language would have a better ability to travel. So if it ticks the boxes of something that is, a little bit more broad in scope in terms of how it's directed and the writing, like it's not too sophisticated, then there's definitely a possibility to have them. In my experience, I have several projects in the works where you can have a local broadcaster in working alongside a Netflix or an Amazon or an Apple. The other thing that is also to your point, Paula, like you have the traditional pay advertisers channels run, and then you have the BBC, which is a hybrid, and then you have the purely funneled networks by government money. So those guys, if they can have their shows travel, it's actually an incentive. So they do want to work with Netflix and Amazon and those guys.
Thank you. Yes, that's a really good point. Ivar, I can't wait to hear all your reactions to so many of these points, because they're touching into so many things that are relevant for the work that you do in NRK. They're touching on language, they're talking about shows that travel. It made me think again about Scam and how it actually traveled as a reversion, but also in its original language, what a success it was. Please, your reactions to a lot of these things.
Well, first of all, I think Alex is very right that, and it's clear pointed out that the OTT is taking over. So for NRK, it has been very important to go into the OTT world, to compete with the streaming platforms with streaming. So we are going from linear TV to have a streaming platform, which is not a catch-up platform, but a competitive streaming platform. And to go to streaming platform makes a huge difference also in the what kind of show you are looking for, because you're going from serving people in slots to serve in a way what they can get in the slot, to be picked when they can choose between thousands of shows at the same time on the streaming platform. So it's a huge change, and for us, we are a public service. We have a license fee, so we get the money from the audience anyway. But we have to stay relevant, because if everyone prefer to go to Netflix or other streaming platform to watch it, we lose our money anyway. Then the public, then we lose. No one wants to support us with no. So we have to stay relevant. So for us, it's been extremely important. And when you talk about the language is the reason the OTT go into cooperation with NRK is to have Norwegian language productions in Norway, so they can strengthen their own catalog in Norwegian in Norway. So they are not that interested in international productions and English productions from Norway. And we are not very interested to make productions for the international market, because then we lose our own market. If we make things in English, we probably lose the Norwegian people watching it, and it competes with a lot of good shows in English. So it wouldn't work that well in international. So for us, it's to stay local, to try to think local and make it in a quality that it could be global. But it's still important for us to keep the possibility to do the decisions and green light ourselves, and not be relying on international green lights, because then it loses it. I think international acquisition is quite conservative. So if you go for trying for the international market, you make something very conservative. So we try to make it for the local market, then we can cross border with what we do, because we are not reliable on the international market. So was that kind of answers for something?
Yes, absolutely. And I think you took it home at every point, and that's important. It made me think also from a producer's perspective, by keeping it first local, and then eventually if it crosses border, I would imagine the producer joins you in that journey as well, if they bring the content to you locally.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and then that is a matter of mindset for the producer, as to some producers will want to do the international jump, straight away, and some will just go to their local channels. In the case of what Joyce was saying before about it depends on the project and how you present it, it made me think, for example, a studio like MGM or you know, like are studios becoming middle people in a way in this kind of scenario? Diego, for example, is it to go to sell something to Ivar or to go sell something to an OTT like Pantaya? Do we need to go to an MGM to help, or how do you see that working?
I like Alex's reaction. I think Alex should answer this.
Alex is coming after us.
Yeah, I think the studios can, like, if you're a content creator or a producer, you can just go to a streamer, get their money and make it. Where studios can add value is by, I guess, incubating the concept by packaging, acting as the middleman, trying to add value to the process. But not in every case you want a studio. The other way the studio adds value is when we're able to piece out together a show versus just giving it away to a streamer. Like that way you can hold on to rights. Because also Ivar probably has, Ivar, sorry, maybe I'm getting in your territory, but like he's got originals money and he's got acquisitions money. So it's not the same how much they're going to pay for the content. So sometimes you would have been able through a studio to get the acquisition money and sell it around the world, like an independent film model, I guess. And then that way you can potentially make more money. So we're independent studios like us. We have a network though, it's called Epix in the US. So sometimes when things fit Epix and Epix collaborates with MGM, it's a great kind of like situation because you're able to get a license fee in the US and a network to leverage sales because you can say we have this airing on a prestigious network in the US. But yeah, I mean, the reality is that is a distribution that is being controlled right now. Like hundreds of millions of people are subscribed to a magazine service like back in the day where they can, get a vast majority of the content out there to them for $8, $10, $12, depending on the market. So, it's to Alex's point, it's, things are getting very competitive, but I think as long as you have, and that's why studios, sorry for expanding here, but studios like try to, for the most part, lock in the talent as well, not as aggressively as Global, but they do like to make this first look or overall deals with talent. So like any network that wants to work with them, they have to go through the studio. So it's a way of protecting also their interest and their first investment, because sometimes you invest in a writer, that writer becomes, a Killing Eve type creator, and then you don't want to see that person go into Netflix without you. You would like to stay, and be a part of their growth so that you guys can continue working together. But the short answer is yes, like there's no way of sugarcoating it. I guess the studios are kind of becoming the middleman, but as long as there's other ways of financing shows, and again, it's two buckets. Like the one bucket is the super prestigious, it may destroy you, the flea box, like those you really can't piece stuff together for the most part. You have to go to a streamer that's going to protect the creative. But some other projects that are more broadcast friendly, a studio like could add a ton of value.
Thank you. I wanted to go back to Joyce because I think that from a producer perspective, you have something to say. And then of course I'm going to Alex because I think in there, I'm just waiting for that bomb. Go, Joyce, please.
Well, I mean, I come from the perspective, I'm a film producer, okay? Yeah. I independent feature films. So, I produced a film called Teeth. And so we produced it independently. We sold it, around the world. We licensed it around the world, but we retained the IP. And right now what we're doing is developing the TV show, but it's only ever going to get greenlit with a streamer. It will never, it could never be network television. So
why not? Explain why not. Why do you feel that? Just for the attendees to understand your mindset on this, around this.
Because of the content, okay? The film is about controversial content. It's about a woman who discovers she has vagina dentata. So we're dealing with sexuality, female empowerment, and penises. So, you know, that is not something that you're going to see on network television, and even on a cable channel, I think it would be very difficult, whereby there's much more flexibility when you come to an OTT. So with that project in particular, you know, we had the, you know, the let's say the glory of going to the Sundance and Berlin and everything, and we did the whole that side of it. We retain the rights, but now we can, you know, exploit the other side of it, which is the OTT. So
great. Alex, please jump in. on the conversation, the points where, you know, the studio point, the producer retaining the rights, like Joyce is bringing. Where do you stand on this? You both are an investor in OTT platforms, but also a creator of content and you know, films and TV as well.
A ver, to answer the point really fast, are studios going to be the middlemen? The answer is no. They are today. They are today because the OTTs want them around. As soon as the OTTs get tired of them, they're gone. And I'm talking about independent. I'm not talking about Universal, for example. Universal, the owner of Universal is Comcast. So at the end, they are their own OTT by themselves. They compete directly with the Netflixes and all these guys. But at the end, the one that competes, or the one that has the money and the big pockets, is called Comcast. It's not called Universal. Universal at the end it's a write-off away for Comcast. I'm talking about the smaller studios. I'm talking about the MGMs, the Lionsgates, etc. OTTs basically will decide until when they should be around. Can they package today? The answer is yes. Can the OTTs package? The OTTs can do anything they want at the end. Somebody the other day asked me what I thought about the OTTs using AAA talent. And my comment, and I'm not going to use very known names, I'm going to try to make it easy. But my comment was, if I have a table and I put one of the little guys from Stranger Things to give autographs to people, and on the other table, I put the biggest talent you can imagine from the old age. And by the old age, I mean anybody. And I don't want to say too many names. Where would I have a queue? I would have a queue with the guy of Stranger Things. And the other guy, being incredibly well known, may have one or two people waiting for an autograph. What does that mean? The OTT will create talent as much as they want. They will create the new A-listers. They don't need any A-listers at the end. At some point, they will basically become the huge studios that decide what gets made, how does it get made, with who does it get made. They will create their own writers. They will create their own actors. They will create their own directors. And whomever wants to talk to the world will have to go through them at the end. I do agree with what Ivar said, which is the local side of the content. But at the end, we're working for the OTTs. The OTTs originally started asking every single one of us if we had ideas for international content. By now, if you talk to the OTTs, they basically tell you, no, we want the local one, because they understood that with the local content, they'll get the local subscriptions. They already understood the game of getting the subscriptions from all over the world. And now their game is, how do I get subscriptions country by country? And that's done through local content. And at the end, my last comment here would be, being really fast, I have a couple of kids. I have lunch with them almost every day, and I ask them what they're watching. My kids basically speak English. So they tell me about Norwegian content that they're watching. They tell me about Spanish content that they're watching. They tell me about Brazilian content that they're watching, but they just watch it in English. See, I remember one of them telling me, yes, this Elite thing was really great. And my next question was, oh, so you're watching a Spanish show? And their answer was, what do you mean by Spanish? My next comment was, it was made in Spain. And in their mind, I don't care if it was made in Spain. I just put the audio in English. I watched it. I liked it. And that's it. So the truth is, the game, we are all playing we are all playing the OTT's game. They understand the rules. Always remember that they have the metadata of the whole thing. So they just understand, with their metadata, they just understand how to move us and what they need. The beautiful thing was the day they basically went into Mexico and everybody said, Televisa is going to be the big one. Today, they can buy Televisa with their pocket money, any of them. So the truth is, we are playing the metadata game for them, and they are calling the shots. And we will all, every single one of us to survive has to understand that we are playing their game, not our game. Sorry for being like this. Ask somebody else.
I know your positions, and I really think that very few people can say what you're saying in the way you're saying it. So that's also, of course, why I wanted you in this panel for sure. So nothing to be apologetic for. I think it's an interesting position to even just to reflect on, because of course on that kind of landscape, and if I would like to hear from Caro as well about it. But in that kind of landscape, to me, what is more dangerous is not only the concentration of power, but also the concentration of storytelling and the way we tell stories. And to me, this is a very important issue, because we are creating hearts and minds. And if you have 10, 100, 200 commissioners inside of one OTT, be it Netflix or Hulu or Amazon, whatever, there is a bias, there is a skewed way to look at the world. And to me, the diversifying of the market not only is a matter of more euros, more dollars, more sterling, and more people, is also about the left field stories, the auteur stories, the stories that tell things that will open up other ways of seeing the world, are also extremely important. They may not make the same amount of money, and they may not be in the same platforms, but I don't want to miss them from the way we create, right? Content,
may I
series,
answer?
or film. Yes, of course.
I say something really fast. Always remember that Apple's game is not to make content, it's to sell. And Amazon's game is not to make content, it's to sell. And so when you understand that, for them, content is just a way to bring people to the platform so they can sell something else to them. That's the end game of these things. At the end, why did Comcast buy Universal, and why did they buy NBC, and what? Because at the end, they have the phone company, cell company, whatever, internet company. You see, this is the way to bring people to their platforms, and that's when I was talking about the so-called metadata. Of course. That's what it is. I said, we have a platform. I am a small piece of a platform here in Latin America called Rappi. In Rappi, we basically compete against Postmates. We basically are the Postmates for Latin America. Okay, we just created a new service called Rappi Live. What do you think the Rappi Live is? To make content? No. It's for people to want to watch content in the platform so that they know Rappi and we can deliver them something to their house. That's it. That's the game.
Yes, 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 absolutely. I'm very conscious of the time. So I just want Carolina to reflect a bit on this and on the diversification and how important do you think that is? And I will go to the questions because I think we're already on the 40-minute mark.
I just think that I want to elaborate a little bit on what Joyce said before, that, you know, in Latin America, at least, people are coming, we're coming from the novela, we're coming from Televisa, from very restricted, creatively speaking, formats, and that people, you know, one of the advantages of going to OTTs for the audience is to find novel work, new ideas, things that are provocative. That at least has been my experience with a show called Juego de las Llaves, which was done for Pantaya. It's a show about swingers. We co-produced it with them and Amazon, and that basically is a good example of a show that was daring for Latin America, you know, for Mexico specifically, and that that really brought, you know, something transformative in what you can do with a series, you know, what you can discuss sex, marriage, and get into certain taboos of society. So basically, creatively, I think there is an opportunity right now to, you know, to bring things that are different, that are new, and for that you do need to be tapping into the writers, into that's a part of the job I like, you know, to be talking to new talent with fresh ideas, and help them evolve their ideas so that we retain their creative angle, but that it also works, you know, commercially, because at the end of the day, we're all running a business, and it's very, OTTs, yes, they're beginning to run the world, but it's extremely expensive, you know, business. You lose subscribers like that. You have to keep them interested, you know. The churning is very high for many of these platforms as well. So it's a challenge, and that is only through creative work, you know, that you can keep subscribers interested. So
thank you. This is a super good point. So I'm going to go to the questions. Ivar, I want to go back to the interesting points of diversity, and if you think that televisions are, you know, bastions as well of ensuring diversity on content, or somebody is saying something about this, the platforms have taken over the business in the same way that TV did in the 50s over cinema markets. But while we were talking, I was thinking there was a moment, for a little moment, Europe had a chance to create an OTT between all the TV channels and create our own regional platform, and we didn't do it, right? How can we make sure not only your channel, but the European channels remain relevant?
I think it's a huge difference between OTT and traditional TV when it comes to content. So well, that's the one. So it's a big change. I mean, I'm really agree that the content for OTT, and when you go for the streaming platform, is challenging, because you need to get the audience to choose you in a different way, and you need to be more go across the borders a little bit. So the trouble or the challenge in Europe is that most of the broadcasters are still going on traditional TV and are not using their streaming platform as a video on demand, but more like a catch-up player. So they are more interested to cooperate with maybe with other OTT platforms like Netflix and HBO and so on, than they are to cooperate with other European companies, because they just want to have the linear rights. So I'm agree. It was a moment, and it's maybe still a moment that we should cooperate much better in Europe to make local content and make it to travel around all the European broadcasters and streaming platforms. But as long as most of the European broadcasters are not into the streaming platform, then it's very hard to find the the way of mixing the content, because it's a different kind of need of content in between the linear and the streaming. So I don't know. It's we are working with it all the time and trying to see, can we manage to trust each other so much that we buy each other's OTT rights or streaming rights on, without just thinking linear. But it's hard just now. But I think no, in the Nordic countries, at least 80 or 90% of the audience have a streaming platform in their house. So everyone is watching the OTT. And that's where all the audience are. But that change hasn't happened in all Europe yet. So no, so people are not so aware of it, I think. But in some, yeah, maybe.
It's phenomenal. 80-90% is extremely big penetration of the OTT market in Nordic countries.
But that's going to happen everywhere. That's, I mean, that's just, we are some years in front, but this is going to happen everywhere, and that's why we have changed from traditional TV to OTT platform, and to try to keep the audience. And that's a big change, but very, very important. But I have to say that it's the thing we have then is the combination between the OTT or the streaming and the linear, and that your own
OTT.
Yeah, own streaming and the linear, and that combination is really great. That Netflix doesn't have that. So the things we are doing, we can combine this, and we can do it. Do the publishing very different. If sometimes we binge it, sometimes we take it once a week, sometimes we take it only on streaming, sometimes we take it on linear first, and so on. So we can combine it, and we can have a very good, in some way, marketing of this show that is not possible for the Netflix. That's why they want to come and sell the rights of cooperate with us, because then they can do this.
Thank you. I'm very conscious of time. We have 11 minutes, and I want to go through the 4 questions I have waiting, because they're all really great questions. So I'm going to give one to each one of you. Carolina, this is for you. Somebody's saying, could cable TV providers serve as content aggregators for people who don't want to have to navigate 4 to 5 different platforms to get all their different content?
Well, cable operators already, I don't know if they aggregate, but basically they are being run a lot by their streaming section, So for instance, in Latino, we have a linear channel that like Ivar says, we are programming in a very specific, rigid way. But at the end of the day, the cable operator is really depending on us for the VOD, because their consumers are consuming streaming. So that's a very important part of our offer to the cable operator. And and there's been instances also that the cable operator has come in, not in our case, but they've come in and co-produced originals, so they themselves are very aware of the habits of their audience and how they're changing, and they're expecting the channels to offer streaming. So, and we have to go either produce or secure those rights. Sometimes we were just securing rights for cable, but right now we have to do much more than that. So it's, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, I think you did, and thank you. The next question comes from another participant, and this, Alex, I'm going to give you this one because it talks about borrowing money, and you also have a experience as a person who worked in the banking industry, so you can put together all your hats. It says Netflix keeps expanding by leaps and bounds, but they are also borrowing huge amount of money. Are they at risk of collapsing like a house of cards, or do you think their size will protect them?
Well, it's in the case of Netflix specifically, the answer is they do run a risky situation. It's the only real platform that I can think of right now that has that kind of risk right now, which is a huge amount of debt. But on the other hand, it's the only one. See, the truth is they're huge already. There is already the risk, considering their amount of debt has already been taken into account by all the analysts in general. So as long as you see the value of Netflix growing, it's because people are not so worried yet. And by people, I mean analysts, investment bankers, etc., the market itself. And the price has been going up and up and up. So the truth is, yes, it's been discounted. Could Netflix be a house of cards kind of situation? It's the only one that really falls into that small category. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. And on the other hand, if we just forget about the word Netflix and we say Amazon, Apple, Disney, etc., all of them are huge. All of them have the same amount of money or more. All of them are buying every single piece of content. So the answer, if the comment was, is the OTT in risk of falling? The answer is absolutely not. Netflix has a small situation there. That's it.
Thank you. Great. Another question, Diego. I'll give this one to you. I think it's pretty relevant. It says one of the success tactics of OTTs is betting on diversity. Will co-productions between networks and studios from different regions, Latin America, Africa, Asia, be a way forward?
Yeah, again, that's for the bucket of the more sophisticated content. But yes, we're always looking for that next voice. We have first look deals with the studio on the international side. Even we only been around for 12 to 18 months in the COVID era, so that's a discounted time. But we have we're always looking for that next voice that's gonna cut through the clutter and we can support it and we can grow together. So yes, the short answer is yes.
Great, thank you. Joyce, this one could be something that you could discuss because of course you come from the film world. And it says, in your opinion, what is the future of OTT original films and their links to theatrical strategies? This comes from Gaston Pavlovich. We say hello to him as well.
Once again, I think it comes back to, everybody needs independent producers, okay? Because we're the ones who, kind of develop this content that other people won't necessarily develop, okay? It is the unique voices that come out of it, and I think it's after, we find it that other people then they see the commerciality of it, and therefore will then, do it. So, I think, you look at a project and you say, well, there's all these different outlets. So all you want to do is as a producer, it's good for us to have different outlets always, and to have more people that want our content. So I'm happy with all the different, the different possibilities that there are, but I do go back to, I really like the mixture of the two, of being able to work with the traditional ones in Europe, the traditional televisions and cable channels and everything, and then mix it with the streamers so that you can have control over your content, but then you also have the ability of attaining a very wide audience through the OTTs.
Yeah, I think also what Gaston was referring to specifically is the theatrical arm of things, and of course you can argue that the OTTs may not be as interested in the future to put their films in cinemas. Of course, there are exceptions, and the exception might be the answer. especially if you're a producer that can actually create that exception, of course. And in the case of Gaston, he's one of the producers of The Irishman, so he's clearly the exception, right? But I think that we need to look at the OTT in the theatrical landscape as you know, what's going to happen if OTTs don't want to go to festivals, they don't want to do cinema, we'll be all creating television, basically, or whatever is called that we have on the platform.
Well, I mean, with one of my films, we sold it as a theatrical release. It went to Cannes, it went to many different festivals. We sold it as a theatrical, and we had the ability in the United States, we were offered an OTT deal or a theatrical. And we chose a theatrical for very specific, you know, artistic purposes for the director, for the director's career. But now the OTT has now come back to us and they have acquired the rights to it, you know, and this is like later. So we've had the ability to do both with that. But then, you know, you have Amazon, which is really supporting theatrical releases for their films in certain territories. So.
Paula, can I interject a little bit?
Yes, please.
I think that, you know, with COVID-19, the whole thing of theatrical release is so up in the air right now. I know that because Pantaya is part of Lionsgate, as you know. So we sometimes see the theatrical as a marketing opportunity, and Netflix did this as well, you know, where you release a film to create a buzz and then it comes back to the platform. But there is a huge opportunity, for at least for us right now, and Cine Latino being a movie channel, to create great films with a budget that is a little bit more controlled than the typical theatrical budget, directly to platform. You know, so creating a pipeline of films that I'm working on that right now, of films that are to be premiering in Pantaya and then come to us, to our cable channel. So there is an avenue. There
is a way. When there is a will, there is a way.
And that is good. That is a good thing, you know.
Yes.
Releasing theatrically
Absolutely.
is a huge expense, and it's very risky, just the marketing of it. So there is an opportunity there right now being built, I think.
Great, thank you. No, that was super interesting to know that that's also happening within the platforms. I have 3 more questions. If you give me some extra 5 minutes, we'll go through them. I would like to put them out there. One of them is, what type of content in sense of genre do you think will be on the rise in the post-COVID world? I want to put this out for Alex, Garcia, and for Diego, and as well, of course, to Ivar, because you might be on the pulse, right? And Caro, of course, as well, but you were just telling us what you were working on. Alex, what kind of content do you think, what in sense of genre do you think will be on the rise in a post-COVID world? And of course, if you want to add anything on what was just said, please do.
Okay, I don't even know when the post-COVID world will exist. Let's just start by when will it exist, but okay. It's exactly as if there's not going to be a difference. They're still going to buy the genre, and they're still going to buy the romantic comedies, and they're still going to buy the how you call it, controversial subjects. It's the euphoria kind of thing. It's always been the same, and it's not going to change. Post-COVID basically means what's going to happen, who's going to be able to shoot someday when the so-called COVID disappears. And the answer is, I'm not sure who's going to be able to shoot. I'm not sure how they're going to be able to shoot until we have at least my opinion. I'm not waiting for a vaccine. I'm waiting for a cure, because I don't want to die along the way. And the vaccine doesn't really guarantee me I'm not going to get sick at the end. So let's forget about the COVID thing world right now for a second. So my comment would be, they're going to be looking for exactly the same. Everybody's sitting down and writing scripts and writing content because of the COVID in their houses, etc. And everybody wants to write something regarding a post-apocalyptic world, blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of, everybody has this thing in their mind right now, as if the thing to do is to write a post-apocalyptic kind of thing. in my mind, I think we're going to see exactly the same. And additionally, if you ask me, do I want to see a post-apocalyptic COVID kind of TV series?
Probably not.
Once it's gone? No, that's the last thing I want to see. I want to see a genre. I want to see a romantic comedy, or I want to see an animated film or a TV series. Simple. That's one. And really, really fast answering, not answering, but adding to what was said regarding movie theaters. I think movie theaters are also today, let's say the Titanic already hit the iceberg. They're gonna sink at the end. It's not if, it's when. Today, the OTTs, because of the COVID, suddenly have a huge power here, because exactly as was said, as it was said before, the OTTs are using the viewership, the box office to buy content. They use that number and then they buy according to that. Today, me as a producer, I would absolutely never give a single movie to any. I wouldn't put a movie into a movie theater, because I know that I'm killing my movie, because my next numbers are going to be according to that box office, and that box office with the new numbers, I'm not going to risk it, and I'm not sure who's going to risk it. So the answer is, yeah, there is an interesting world where movie theaters may end up becoming opera houses and OTT platforms, the owners of the content. And I don't know. You're muted.
Yes. No, I was saying, well, anyone wants to chip in into this post-apocalyptic world that Alex is is telling us, I think we should all pack our bags. The Titanic is sinking. I'm going to open a spa, I think, very soon, hopefully. Diego, Ivar, any comments on that? Or Carol as well, of course, or Joyce. We are about to close our panel very soon. I'm aware that we are over time by now. Ivar.
I'm agree. I don't think it's going to be so much change, but the interesting thing is now, is this, what are we going to shoot any drama where living in a corona society? Because every time when we shoot our drama now, we try to pretend it should be like normal, because we think that this is, nobody's want to see the COVID when COVID is finished. But so I'm just curious if we're going to see some show where people are acting in a COVID society, or are we just pretending it doesn't exist?
Well,
but no change otherwise.
Diego, Carol, Joyce, what's post-COVID?
I think it's gonna be like, it's like everything. It's gonna be finding the new voices. It's gonna be a lot of escapism, a lot of rom-coms, like Alex said, a lot of horror. Like, you don't want to see what you turn on the TV on CNN or whatever news outlet you watch and see the same thing on the creative side. I do think it's gonna be short orders also. I think people went already from like the 12 episode order to like 8, now 6, because that's the way people like to watch and how much attention span they have. So that's also an interesting factor, even for the traditional broadcasters.
That's really interesting. Very, very good insight. Thank you, Diego. Carol?
I agree with everything everybody always said. I think that if you produce something that is very much about COVID, it's relevant now, but try to sell that license in 5 years, and I think that it just kind of dates it, and we're all eager to just keep telling the stories of non-COVID reality. And on my end, I think we're looking to adjust some scripts, do things in a way that would allow us to produce it with protocols in a more contained way. But we haven't been there yet. We have not touched the set yet. We're developing.
Thank you. Joyce, any final reflection around this?
Right now, I mean, what Carolina said, it's changing and looking at different projects that we can make in this post-COVID world, but not necessarily, you know, having our actors wearing masks in them, but really kind of paring down the number of actors and locations and everything, going back to like very low budget films, you know?
Exactly.
But then what's something that's interesting, and I'm going to be Alex for a second, bringing in a touchy subject. Like we all spend so much time developing, trying to get to the, you know, hottest writers right now. And then there's a movie from Poland in English called 365 that becomes the most watched #1 on Netflix everywhere in the world. And you're like, what are we looking at? You know, like it's very interesting, you know?
I think what Alex's algorithms, what he was talking about, the metadata, has a lot to do with that choice for Netflix.
Well,
yes, so it is part of that. But additional to that is every single person in the world right now is developing, and by every single person I mean every single person. A lot of producers, a lot of directors, a lot of writers. Everybody's sat down and started developing and developing and developing and developing. And in my mind, what we are basically going to see happening within the next 6 months or whatever, whenever this thing starts disappearing a bit, is instead of having 100 scripts for these platforms, we're going to have 10,000. So these platforms are going to be, if we already gave them the power, imagine when suddenly they just wake up and find 10,000 scripts for sale. How much are they going to pay for each script, for each project? So basically, even though, and this is a very personal thing, even though everybody says, I've had the time to develop, it's not thank God for the COVID, but it is kind of, it gave me the time to develop. It gave me the time to have this 5, 6, or 10 new projects in my mind, etc., which I didn't have the time before. My question is, be careful what we wish for, which is we may end up having a buyer's market. If it was already a kind of a buyer's market, imagine when there's an overload, I don't know how to say it, an excess of content. And the longer the COVID takes, the more content there will be being made, being put together, developed. So I don't know. I think we're basically playing the game without knowing we're playing the game. Welcome to the new age. I don't know. I'm not the nicest.
No, but thank you all. I think this was very, very sobering, of course. Yesterday, there was a panel about distribution where we discussed some ideas about a collaborative future. And I would like to lead with that to close this. I think even though what we have said is super clear, and it's clear to all of us and many of us, especially at the producers end, we are scrambling permanently how to keep being relevant and not just become service providers to a landscape that is telling us that whatever we create is not ours anymore. And for many independent producers, that is extremely difficult to take, because we invest ourselves, we are entrepreneurs of the creations that we do. Then of course, when producers move forward, some of us also write, so the producer who writes will become a bit more of a relevant character. We have a future ahead of us where collaboration maybe is between people like all of you here. So I want to really thank you for your time. Thank you for being so honest, for having a bit of fun in this uncertain times. I don't have the answer to when the post-COVID world will be. And it's a bit sacrilegious to say that I'm enjoying very much to be able to talk with so many of you from so many corners of the world. This conversation ends now, but tomorrow, please don't miss tomorrow's talk. I have the extreme pleasure to be on a one-on-one conversation with my very dear and admired Veena Sood, Vina is an iconic creator, a showrunner, the director of The Killing, 7 Seconds, and Strangers. We will be here again at 7 p.m. Don't forget to register. And all the, remember that all the conversations will be live, actually now, but also they will be in the CineLink, screendaily.com/CineLink. They will be available for everybody to watch tomorrow. Well, thank you again. Thank you to my colleague who has been behind the scenes, Ben Dalton, giving us a hand with the questions. And thank you, Alex, Diego, Ivar, Caro, and Joyce. It's been a real pleasure and an honor to be with you here. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.